president's representative to Canada. I present the president's views, the United States views to Canada. Mechanically, I don't do all the reposting and retweeting myself. My understanding is we repost 100% of the president's tweets that deal with Canada.
So that's Pete Hoekstra talking about Canada and the fact that it's not him, but obviously he is cut from the same cloth as Donald Trump. James Mennie is on the line. Jim, what's the issue here exactly?
He's not cut from the same cloth as Donald Trump. He's cut from the same cloth as Bobby the Brain Heenan. Do you remember that guy?
Oh, my God, the wrestling guy?
The wrestling guy, 1980s, was a wrestler turned into an evil manager. Bobby the Brain, okay, his job, if he was, working for Donald Trump, it's Hoekstra's job to hand an illegal object to Donald Trump that he can hide in his trunks while the ref isn't looking.
Oh, yeah.
It's Peter Hoekstra's job to make sure the next time the ref isn't looking, to go up behind Dominic LeBlanc, our trade negotiator, and hit him in the head with a metal chair. Now, before you think I'm going over the top with this, just remember, Donald Trump appeared regularly on WWF Wrestling. Yeah. He actually had one bout where he shaved Vince McMahon's head, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was the ref, okay? And an interesting coincidence, Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon's wife, is the U.S. Secretary of Education. No, folks, I'm not making this up, okay? So this is where we are. You want to understand Donald Trump, you want to understand what's happening in the States, just watch wrestling, and it all becomes crystal clear. And the thing is, Aaron, you're chuckling away, and I know. I just heard you talking to our correspondent about, free trade and negotiations. The non-chuckle part here is it doesn't matter. We could get a deal, get it signed, get everything done, I's dotted, T's crossed. It's a great deal. And then the next day, Donald Trump will say, no, this is a ridiculous deal. I'm going to impose 400% tariffs on Canada because I just don't like that. That's where we are. And that's what we're up against. And this whole thing today, with Peter Hoekstra, he met with Christine Trechette, our premier. And, of course, she came out and saying, we should keep the tariffs low in Quebec. But the fact is he was being scrummed on the fact that he had retweeted a post from Donald Trump, who, in fact, had posted news that Canada was in a technical recession. And, of course, at the top of it, he triumphantly goes, 51st state. And Hoekstra retweeted it. And now there is a petition, I don't know if you heard about this, to have Hoekstra thrown out of the country. There are apparently people who are very, very angry and who didn't watch enough wrestling to understand the game, who want Hoekstra to be thrown out of the country. But the fact of the matter is, he ain't going no place. And in the meantime, and we'll leave wrestling out of it from now on. But in the meantime, I just want you to understand, for those of you out there who are rolling your eyes over my metaphors with wrestling, remember today, actually yesterday, the President of the United States said that the rigging and special stage set up alongside the White House for this month's UFC match, may be there permanently.
Uh-huh. Jim, I was only chuckling because I can't believe your reference to Bobby the Brain Heenan. I'm wondering how many people actually remember that. So good on you, because you pulled that one out from a long time ago.
Folks, get over to Google. Yeah. It is an age. It was a less elegant but far more colorful age, and it's worth the trip. I'll tell you right now.
I was kind of waiting for you to bring up Abdullah the Butcher, but maybe for another time.
Oh, Abdullah! Okay. Well, one last thing. I was privileged to actually watch Abdullah the Butcher.
Were you?
At the Verdun Auditorium when he was making his comeback tour, and he stuck a guy in the forehead with a fork.
They don't make them like that anymore. I love
that.
No,
sir,
thank
not
you.
At all.
All right. So much. Dick the Bulldog Brower and Sweet Daddy CK. We'll bring that back another time. Okay. Listen, the whole idea between this whole Pete Hoekstra thing is it doesn't seem to matter what anybody says on the Canadian side. Anytime you try to make a point, you're not going to get anywhere with them. I'm not sure I understand the point of Christine Trechette meeting with him.
I guess she figures, she's got to, listen, she needs presence. She's campaigning to be premier of Quebec for real with the majority government. And her party right now is in huge trouble. So the idea that even if it's the apprentice troll to the big troll, it's still it's an affair of state. You can't ignore the fact, damn it, the guy is the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Canada.
Yeah.
So you know what? I guess there's no such thing as bad publicity, and she certainly got some today. But all that said, I mean, this is a problem. This is the real thing that we face, because Donald Trump is nothing more than a troll. Never been anything more than a troll, and people are buying into it. And the more he gets people peed off, okay, he's doing his job. They're not looking at all the other huge mistakes and irreparable damage he's doing to his own country and to a certain extent the entire world. No, we're just mad because he said A, B, and C, and you're focusing on that. But the fact of the matter is, this is where we are. And on top of everything else, as I speak to you, I'm seeing several reports coming up with people scratching their heads over the fact that Donald Trump has not been seen in public for the past week. So the question is, are we really hearing from Donald Trump? But yeah, I mean, this is where we are. This is how crazy things have become in the world ever since this guy got elected to, wait for it, his second term as president of the U.S.
I want to ask, with respect to Christine Frechette, the other meeting today came, of course, with Danielle Smith, and what do you make of that?
The idea that, I mean, let's face it, the idea of separatism, the alleged leverage of separatism, is on both their minds. I mean, let's face it, the CAQ has never been anything more than a separatist party that was too chicken to hold a referendum. So they were lucky. They had Justin Trudeau. They used that guy as a doormat while Legault was in power. Now they're setting their hair on fire because Carney is pushing back on things like 50+1, on the idea that, maybe Quebec is not going to be able to run the table, even if there is a referendum on sovereignty. And, I think that was as much for Alberta when he mentioned that this week as it was for Quebec. Yeah. The fact is, if you let people run off at the mouth and say the most outrageous things, it gets turned into some kind of truth. Because as someone who works in that business, it's easier just to take the quote and run it and have people freak out over it than actually examine the quote and whether it makes any sense. So, yeah, we've got this idea, it's going to be terrible, and Alberta might leave. There's nothing to suggest that Alberta might leave. The numbers aren't there. The numbers aren't there in Quebec either, but here we are talking about, we're having such a hard time with Ottawa, it's awful, and this and that, and the people must be heard. We'll see what's going to happen. But the fact that they're getting together, I guess, is, once again, no such thing as bad publicity. It gives both a certain amount of national, and I mean that in the Canadian sense of the word, national exposure. So, it's all well and good. But the fact of the matter is, the entire world may turn on a dime and change incredibly after the first Monday in October when we go to the polls.
I'm just trying to, in my mind, understand, so you're meeting, you're the Premier of Alberta, you're meeting with the Premier of Quebec.
Yeah.
Who's this? Who are you trying to send a message to here exactly? If you're Danielle Smith and you're supposed to be kind of in the middle, I don't want to get to this whole idea of a referendum or a referendum. What sort of? I mean, what are you doing here exactly? What is this for? What's
if
this
nothing else,
for?
You're giving the impression. You know what? I believe the system works. I'm going to work within this federation to, build bridges with my fellow premiers. When in fact, the Council of the Federation, which was the creation, in fact, of our own Jean Charest, really is nothing more than, I guess, a semi-annual opportunity for all the premiers to whine and vent about how Ottawa is screwing them over.
Right.
But listen, that is history. That's how we do things in Canada. Now, the idea that Alberta is meeting with Quebec, are we really thinking that the people of Quebec, are meeting with the people of Alberta? I don't think so. I think we've got a couple of politicians who are looking for some spotlight, who are looking for some credibility, and they got it. That you and I are talking about it. They're making headlines. Will they want to know from each other next week? Probably not. But once again, this is where we are right now. I will tell you, I know we don't have the time, but let me tell you, ever since Carney became prime minister, the entire mathematics of Canadian politics have been turned on their head. I mean, certainly the separatists in Quebec don't know what to do. The separatists in Alberta may think they know what to do, but I think they're in for a rude shock. But the fact is, I don't recall when we've had a prime minister like this before. Whether it's even Chrétien, he was a professional politician and he's a great speaker, and he knew the wiring of government. But I think Mark Carney scares the hell out of a lot of people in the opposition, a lot of premiers in the province, and they're not sure how to handle them because no matter what you and I say, or no matter what the listeners are texting in right now, he is slowly but surely shaping into perhaps the most popular politician this country has ever had.
You know, that's the point, right? You have him now at literally the highest sort of polling we've seen in any kind of, I think probably since Stephen Harper, maybe at the beginning. And at the same time, you have the Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre, and you mentioned this yesterday, Jim, the worst number since he actually took over as leader of the party.
Yeah. I mean, there's that, and I've said this repeatedly. I'm not sort of like, kicking the guy when he's down. I've been saying from the get-go, Pierre Poilievre is the gift that simply keeps giving to the federal Liberals. As long as he is head of the Conservative Party of Canada, there will be a liberal majority government in power for the foreseeable future. I'm sure people get angry about that, but that's the bottom line. And it's not just me, and it's not just in Quebec. It's right across the country. It's kind of scary.
You know, I heard someone mention this today. I'd be curious to what you think. They described Carney as, for someone who he's not a political animal, right? He was, Bank of Canada, Bank of England. But for a guy who didn't have that in his background, he's certainly, he talks about policy, not politics, but his politics seems to be pretty good.
Well, the politics, don't forget, bankers are bottom line people. And I think what a lot of Canadians want right now are bottom line politicians. They want to have someone who not only is, and I said this before, not only, doesn't know, who knows what they're doing, but also looks like they know what they're doing. I mean, a lot of people simply trust Mark Carney, even though people are saying, there's a recession now, it's terrible, blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think there is this idea that evolved, and I've said before as well, people want politicians to look after them.
Yeah.
I think the idea is Mark Carney knows what he's doing. I'm going to be safe and sound so long as he's at the helm, as opposed to somebody who is either going to run the country up on the rocks or kowtow to separatists or do whatever. Let's face it, the Trudeau years were, towards the end, were ridiculously uncertain, ridiculously flu, as we say in these parts. And I think a lot of people are simply relieved to have someone, as I say, who seems to know what the hell he's doing.
Jim, did you hear what Daniel Smith called the kind of Alberta and Quebec today, our relationship? Did you catch it?
Well,
hold on. I'm going to play it for you. Here it is.
I am here to build new linkages as our two provinces, Alberta and Quebec. Queberta, I guess we're calling it.
No, we're not calling it that.
No, we're not. No. And you know why? Because that was a cheap attempt to steal my Saskatchewan. And that ain't going to happen, my friend. That's how I refer to that region that begins in Alberta and ends in Manitoba. The Great West, the great conservative hotbed of support, the region of Saskatchewan. And I think maybe they should call a party after that. But no, Madame Smith, it ain't happening.
That's right.
Queberta, okay?
Queberta. Give me a break.
Yeah.
James Mennie. Jim, thank you.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd.
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.